What's going on, everybody? Happy New Year's to everybody tuning in right now in January. If you're off watching this in some other month, this is still going to be helpful, so I am glad you are tuning in. But I am going to get into some raw, unfiltered pieces within my life that has helped manifest me to where I am today. So if you are watching or listening in the morning, grab yourself a nice cup of coffee, sit back, relax. If you are tuning in on, let's say the podcast or in the afternoon, then you know what? Get yourself a beer or a glass of wine, because what I am going to say could be, I don't know, the truth hurts sometimes. So let's just grow together. Let's take these punches and let's take on some new challenges to better ourselves. So you guys saw the title. I manifested where I am today by deciding that I was going to end my flop era, as the young people like to call it. But in reality, it's just the time when you're down and you feel like nothing is going your way. You feel like you just have been wasting a lot of time. Maybe you're going through some depression. I've gone through that as well. And I just did a couple of small changes that are extremely attainable that allowed me to really just kind of level up myself. So if this is something that you're interested in, I hope you're enjoying this video. But at the same time, I just want to let you guys know that I am by no means an expert at any of this. I just did things that helped me overcome where I was by listening to experts. And I feel like some of the things that I was reading sometimes can just be hard to understand or figure out a way on how you're going to manifest that into your life. So I'm just going to give you guys some examples of what I did that really helped me out. Now, I might sound a little crazy, but I want you guys to just bear with me and hear me out, because this shit works, okay? I'm not kidding. This has been a very long journey, so it's not like I just did this overnight or I started this last year. But several years ago, I decided that I was going to be delusionally optimistic. Okay, don't get confused with that word delusional. I'm not saying that I and getting confused with the word real delusion. Like, let's say you go see a doctor and that doctor tells you that you have a disease and you have to take these certain steps to better yourself, and you're like,
yeah, all right, totally gonna do it. And you walk out, you're like, man, that guy's crazy. I'm not doing any of that.
I'm not talking about that. That is an actual real problem. So you should definitely seek help if you do have delusions. But what I am talking about is delusionally optimism, or being optimistic. What I'm talking about is the delusionally optimistic mindset. And I'm talking about believing in what you believe can happen and manifesting it. And when I started my sales journey, I didn't have any experience like a lot of people that reach out to me, and I moved to a new city where I didn't know anyone just to start a new sales job. And it was scary. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I did it for these reasons. So first, I felt like the house that I was living in with all of my homies was a black hole. And it was mostly an energy sucker, and I'll get into those energy vibes a little bit later, but let me keep kind of giving you guys a few more examples as to why I started doing that, delusional optimistic mindset. Second is I met my now wife, and I knew that I needed to better my life to give her the life that I wanted both of us to have, not just her. I wanted to have this life as well, and I knew that the place that I was in and the circumstances that I had at that moment were just not good. So I needed to make sure that I needed to make that change as well. And third, I just took the time to really ask myself what I wanted in life. And I actually took the time, got like a little binder, started writing these things down on what my goals were, what I wanted to achieve, how I was going to achieve them. And I did this because I had just read a book, I believe it was called Master Your Mind, Master Your Time, Master Your Life. That's what it is. Master Your Time, Master Your Life. And it was by Brian Tracy. And I wrote down my ideas, my goals, and I narrowed everything. I narrowed those focuses down to like one thing that would actually make all of my goals come true. And you can get that from the book. And I really started just honing in on what that one single thing was. And like the very first thing that I could do was just leave that black hole that I was living in. And I'm not saying that my friends were a black hole. I'm saying that the situation that I was in was just a black hole. And I knew that for me to be able to manifest where I wanted to go, I needed to get out of that situation. So I started applying for jobs, and that's how I ended up getting that sales job that took me to a whole new city. And I took it because I knew that I was going to now chase after my goals. You guys might be wondering, what was my goal at the time? At the time, it was literally, I just wanted to get into medical sales. As I started doing research and figuring out that I didn't want to do physical therapy anymore, I found out that like medical sales was a thing, and I started researching it and I started asking people about it. And when I found the answer, which a lot of people were telling me, was to go get experience somewhere rather than, I guess, becoming an associate. I honestly, like, I've talked about this a few times. I wish that I would have heard a little bit more about the associate pathway, but I ended up going and getting sales experience. And my goal was to get into medical sales. So I found a job that would give me the experience that I needed to break in and accomplish what that goal was. And the number one question that I still get asked is, how did you break in? And besides the obvious part of obviously going and getting the experience and getting my accolades, I focused a lot of my energy prior to getting those accolades and getting the job that led me to medical sales by using like the mental mindset set of acting as if. Essentially, by being optimistically delusional, this allowed me to act as if I was already, let's say a President's Club winner. I could act as if I was already financially set. I could act as if I was already where I wanted to be, which was in medical sales. So when the temptations of quitting work early, because a lot of you guys might not know, but my first sales job was in outside sales. So I would go to the office twice a week, Monday and Wednesday, and I'd only be there for possibly half the day. A lot of the times I was out by like 10, sometimes like latest 11 o'clock in the morning. So I didn't have a lot of oversight. I didn't have like a manager looking over my shoulder, checking to see what I was doing besides on Monday and Wednesday. So I lived in Houston, Texas, and that place is humid. It rains a lot, and you get a lot of these mental desires to veer off course on, let's say, a super hot day or a rainy day. And there was a lot of fucking rainy days in Houston. And I would just ask myself during that time, what is it that a President's Club winner would be doing right now? If I was working in medical sales, would the rain keep me home and from doing my job? And that is a hard no. You are required to go to several of these cases, and patients, are relying on you, doctors are relying on you. So just because I was in a sales role that didn't require, like, let's say, that type of need from me, I still wanted to go into it as, what if I was already in this field? What would I be doing? So essentially, by just acting delusional and using that act as if I already had it, that mindset really helped me excel, and very quickly. Before I knew it, I was consistently on President's Club pace. I had won multiple accolades throughout my first sales role career, and at a certain point, I was starting to get hit up by recruiters on a frequent basis, asking if I was ready to essentially jump ship and get into medical sales. And finally, at a certain point, I was, and I earned the very first medical sales job that I applied for. So all of those things that I was doing prior, that living in that black hole and just feeling like the things that I was doing wasn't really getting me to where I wanted to go, I was able to change all of that just by using one simple method of just being delusionally optimistic and changing my mindset and allowing myself to believe that I already had those things. And by using that, I was able to apply myself, I believe, truly a little bit more into the things that I was doing compared to the people that were around me, because they didn't have the same mindset that I was currently essentially like holding on to. But looking back at everything, I've had to really dig deep and try to understand where some of my failures were. And even though I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, which was getting into medical sales, I still wasn't really that happy. I wasn't financially where I thought I would be. People were telling me that you would be so financially set, you're going to be in all these different places, and life is just going to be awesome. And it really wasn't. My wife and I, were arguing all the time. We had had our first kid, and basically, to me, inside and within like my immediate family, which was my wife and child, like my life was falling apart. But I was putting on a front on a daily basis, just trying to pretend like things were going amazing and fantastic, and I truly, just loved life. But I was struggling to make ends meet. I was struggling to be a good father. I was struggling to be a good husband, and it was really starting to like tear me down. And all I could do was pretend that essentially, letting my team down, which was the group that I was working with within medical sales, was actually overcoming my actual reality of the fact that I was letting myself down and the people around me down. I've talked about it before, but for all the new people here, like when you get into medical sales, it is quite the commitment. And I still have yet to have a conversation with somebody that didn't struggle with some of these pieces, but at the same time, nobody besides the people that have like come in to try to tell me, oh, I'm so wrong about this and wrong about that, and you can make so much money. They have yet to show me W-2s to prove or disprove the things that I am talking about. But I was just essentially working countless hours, spending more time running sets and taking doctors to dinners and playing poker on certain nights with these physicians than actually spending time with my family and my wife and my newborn. And I was making less money than I was before. So even though I had accomplished the goal that I had set out to accomplish, I was actually in a worse place like inside and around me, but from the outside looking in, I had made it. I was now in medical sales. I was a device rep. I was rubbing shoulders with physicians. So like what more could I want in life? But really my life was essentially falling apart. And these were things that I couldn't really realize when they were actually happening because I didn't know it at the time, but now that I've taken the time to reflect on it and reflect on that part of my life, I realized that for the first time, I believe, I mean, I could probably try to go back deeper in my mind, but that's just, I'm a dude, or I guess I'm using that as an excuse. I just haven't really or haven't needed to. But at this point, I truly believe that I was actually depressed. And that's hard for me to say because if you guys have ever met me and you've watched my videos or you know me in general, I am a very like optimistic person. I'm always bringing smiles to people's faces. I'm a glass half full. And I realized that those attributes of myself were actually bleeding into a falsehood of pretending that things were way better than they actually were because I was essentially just faking it. But it finally got to the point to where like I couldn't fake it anymore, and I was letting myself and everyone around me that actually mattered, again, my wife and my daughter, like at that time, that's all that I really should be focusing on. But I was letting them down, I was letting myself down, and I realized that I just didn't have enough time to devote to myself, let alone any of them, which now leads me to the next point. I remembered how being delusionally optimistic got me to where I was, and I kind of just let it go at that point. That's a problem in a lot of the things that we currently do. It is, all of us always like set a goal for ourselves, especially right now at the beginning of the year, and sometimes we achieve that goal, sometimes we don't achieve that goal. But once we get to like a certain level of trying to get to where we want to go, we kind of take our foot off the gas. And I took my foot off of being essentially delusionally optimistic, and what that got me to was where I was, but I wasn't giving myself time anymore to reflect on me and who I had become. So at that point, which is now, I have essentially made the conscious effort to consistently start waking up at 4:44 a.m. Yes, every day. 4:44. Do I fail sometimes? Yes, but my goal, and it's become more of a part of who I am. I just wake up at 4:44, and I do this so that I can actually have some time to myself in a quiet house and reflect on myself and my thoughts and spirituality, all of those things, the things that you can't do in life when everything is being like hustle and bustle, you got to find some time for yourself. So I know it sounds crazy in the sense of like, why are you waking up that early? But again, if you guys are new to the channel, I've got 2 kids. So I have a daughter and a son. And these guys wake up like at 6:30 to 7 o'clock in the morning every single day. So if I'm going to try to find some time outside of my work hours for myself, it makes more sense for me to do it in the morning than in the afternoon. Because in the afternoon, again, it comes back to family time. My kids have been at daycare all day, and now they're coming home, and I don't want to then be away from them again after they've been gone all day. So I want to spend time with my kids. And then at the same time, my wife works full time. I work full time. So I don't want to pick an hour in the afternoon to, again, be by myself when now I need to spend time with her because we just got time spending together as a family. Now it's time for us to spend some time together. So for me, it works better in the morning. If you guys are single, or you're not a morning person, you're like a night owl, then maybe you can kind of schedule it in after everybody goes to bed. But for me, it just works out better to do it in the morning, and it's really allowed me to essentially like wake up, meditate while I'm having my morning coffee, and then I go and I get a workout in, and I do all of this before essentially my family rolls out of bed. And again, I'm letting you guys know, like, none of this happened overnight. I actually learned this morning while I was walking and listening to an audiobook that I used to believe this, and I would tell people this, especially while I was doing personal training, and also even on my platform right now. I've told people, because this is how I've learned it, that it takes 21 days to essentially build a habit. And that is completely like not true, is what I just found out. It actually takes upwards of 66 days to build a habit. So many people, even myself, I've gotten past that 21-day mark. Let's say I've gotten to 28 days, and I'm just like, man, why is this still so hard for me? Why am I not like continuously just doing this thing, and I end up falling off the wagon? And it's because we were told that it was those 21 days, but it's not. It's actually further along, and it's like up to 66 days, sometimes even more. So you need to realize that when you're trying something new, especially right now at the beginning of the year for the people that are watching this right now, and later in the year, if you're trying to level yourself up at this point, you need to give yourself more time and more credit for the time that you have put in, and not think that because it's already been 21 days like you had saw on so many other websites and you haven't figured it out, that you're doing something wrong. You're actually doing everything right. Don't give up on that yet. It really takes a lot more time than you think. But the problem with that is a lot of people want to give up on it because it hasn't become a habit yet. But eventually, like when you have done this for long enough, that habit, which is me now at this point, has become a routine, and from that routine now has essentially become a part of my life. I enjoy my wake up. I enjoy the time that I get to myself with my morning coffee and my morning meditation. I look at my morning walk on the treadmill as a time to focus on myself and to focus on the meditation. But all of that being said, keeps revolving around being that delusionally optimistic person, to help you find ways to carve those things out for yourself. And even if it's like, let's say 30 minutes, like you feel like you're way too busy, like find 30 minutes, if you enjoy baths, like take a bath and take that time to unwind and relax. But my waking up early is how I get it done. And it really helps me on that level. And on top of that, it allows me to have time for my physical self as well. And when I say like my physical self, I mean, for me, it's going to be working out. I enjoy working out. It's been a part of my life, in and out of my life. It's not something that I show all the time, but I'm not saying that that's something that you guys need to jump into. Like, if you enjoy walking, great. I think, to be honest, like, if you can carve out some time to walk, because it's great for your health, it's great for your body, it's just wonderful for your well-being, and it really helps you live a longer life. And if you get bored on those things, I mean, just listen to an audiobook. That's what I do. I wish this video was sponsored by audiobooks, but it's not. I just truly love audiobook, and I fell in love with this app when I was trying to essentially level myself up at the beginning of all of these things. And when I got my first sales job, I realized that I had a ton of windshield time. And so instead of listening to music, I would listen to those self-help books and different things like that. And that's how I ended up essentially looking at how I was going to manifest my future. And I specifically picked certain books that would help me develop those certain skills and those certain attributes. And also, every once in a while, I throw in a fiction book just because sometimes you get tired of that person that's like talking in your ear and trying to bump you up and tell you to do something. So fiction is also great too. I'm just saying, get out there, walk, or get on a treadmill. It's going to be awesome. It's going to help you just, I guess, have that relaxing time. And I do personally believe that it's relaxing. If it's hard on you, great, because your body needs it. If it's not hard on you, then great, because you are giving yourself something that your body truly needs. I do want to throw another thing that I did for myself that, a lot of you guys out there might not care for it, but it's definitely something that I find truly a piece within me that has helped me become who I am, and that's building my relationship with Jesus. That has really helped me tremendously, not only just as me, but essentially as a husband and a father. And the reason for that is, if this is something that you care about, I just love the fact that Jesus is love and love is Jesus, essentially. And when you live your life trying to prioritize love, it does something to you in your core, and you start treating people a little bit differently, and then things start manifesting for you in different ways as well. So during like that low time of me failing my family, failing my wife, and failing the people like around me, I just really started to emphasize like prayer, and those things really started just turning around for me. And because I'm married and I'm in a relationship, and we both wanted to essentially level up together that way, we started looking at different books and different things like that. So if this is something that you guys like, then I would just suggest, like, if you're in a marriage and things are hard, or if you just want to understand a little bit more on what I mean by Jesus's love and things like that, I think like any book by Gary Thomas is amazing, but Sacred Marriage was an absolute like game changer for our lives. So that's just like the 2 cents that I'm going to put in on this information. But lastly, let me just get back to the black hole piece that I mentioned earlier at the beginning. By black hole, I'm talking about like the energies that you feel within the world. And I know a lot of people have this intuition in them that when they're around certain people, they get certain vibes, and either you're digging that vibe or you're not digging that vibe. But in this area of my life and in this time in my life, what I try to do is surround myself with people that are what I like to call chargers. Like, they are energy chargers compared to energy drainers. There are a time and a place that you need to be around those energy drainers because you're the one that needs to be their charger to help lift them up. But I have really seen that where a lot of the things that have helped me and have helped like my mind to manifest the things that I've manifested is by surrounding myself with what I like to call chargers. I started paying attention to how I felt when I was talking to certain people, and how I felt when I walked away from them, or when I was reflecting on my life like the following morning. If you walk with people that charge you up, you tend to feel elevated and you start charging up other people. But if you feel like physically drained from certain conversations that you're having with people, then this is that truth bit that, this is the punch in the face that you might need. That might be somebody that you need to cut out of your life, at least for the time being, because they're not helping you to elevate yourself. They're pulling you down. They're draining your energy and not necessarily giving you anything back. So I would suggest, like, this year, try surrounding yourself with more chargers. Like I said, it's helped me, and more times than not, those people are going to motivate you, and the energy that you're getting is going to level you up, which means in turn you're going to level other people up, and then more and more people will end up wanting to hang out with you and talk with you and work with you. And this would work even in the work environment because of the type of person that you are. If you're, the Debbie Downer of the group, people know that and people feel that energy. And that might be why you feel it sometimes too, around when you get around certain people. Like, maybe you're the Debbie Downer and it's time for you to be the charger in your life. So that's something that I definitely would say that you need to think about. For me, I feel like I've more times than not always been a charger, but that is also extremely draining. And over time, I feel like my wife is introverted, and I feel like I have understood what she means by needing your batteries recharged. And after, I've been in sales for over 10 years at this point, and when you're giving so much of yourself and you're giving so much of that energy, there is definitely times that you need for yourself to recharge. And that goes back to what I was talking about before, which is carving out some you time. So make sure that you're looking at that you time and your energies and where you're kind of trying to synchronize those things so that you're always at a pretty good level dependent on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. But for me, when I started really kind of looking deeper into these things, that is when I realized that the house that I was living in was essentially a black hole. I love my friends to death. We are still friends to this day, but it took, and this is why I'm saying like you have to start reflecting on these things and starting to kind of look around at the people that you're hanging out with and how you feel when you're with them and how you feel when you're away from them. Because I was loving life. I was highly enjoying it. But when I started thinking about what was going on, I was not essentially leveling up. I was just, drinking and partying and staying up late and just kind of going through the motions of life, and nothing was really essentially changing. I felt like I didn't have any good luck. Everything that I was trying to do always seemed like harder and more difficult, and that was for me the home that I was in. Nobody was really trying to level up. Everybody was just enjoying life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at a certain time, and that was for me at that certain time, I wanted more. And I realized that even though I loved where I was, loved the people that I was around, they weren't helping me level up. They weren't energy drainers in any sense. They weren't taking from me and not giving back. We were constantly in like great moods, going out, partying, playing golf, playing frisbee golf, doing all these activities. But it was these things that in my life at the time was not necessarily helping me. And one of the things that always brought fear to me was financial stability. And I didn't really have financial stability at that time. So I needed to figure out how I could get that financial stability. And for me, it was realizing that the home that I was in, that I like to call a black hole, was really just because nobody was leveling up and everybody was just happy with what was going on in their lives. I feel like that is a lot of people right now in the world today. And I'm hoping that, this is just the little slap in the face that you need to help you realize that while your life is fun and things are going well, maybe the well that you see is actually not like the happiness that you're looking for. Because even though you're having fun every single day and you're going to bed and you're, slightly depressed and not as happy, maybe it's because of what you are currently going through and it's just not as great as you actually think it really is. So these were the things that I essentially did that helped me end my flop era, and I'm still trying new things out, and I'm not to where I need to be yet. I'm just essentially, I'm happy, and I'm continuously trying to find ways to continue leveling up. And I just hope that some of these things you guys found helpful. If not, maybe it enlightened you a little bit, just hearing my story and how I looked at things and the progress that I did to move forward in life. And like I said, this is a continual progression. It will forever be a progression. It's not like I'm going to suddenly become, 100% the best person in the world and not need to work on myself anymore. These are things that I am constantly trying to think about. And as I start reflecting on last year and looking forward into this year, I want to find ways that I can become more impactful and essentially create a legacy. And those are the things that I was doing. I was just essentially working on manifestations of who I wanted to be. And by being essentially delusionally optimistic, it has helped me to get to where I am today. So I just want to say, good luck in this new year. And if you're catching this at, any other point in your life, I hope that it's helping you. I hope that you guys stuck around to hear most of the story. And if you did, I truly appreciate you guys. That is amazing. I enjoy just, spending this time to spend time with you guys and answering any questions in the comments. I love what you guys do for me in the sense of constantly elevating me, letting me know the challenges that you guys have overcome with some of the tips that I've given. And so if you guys haven't already, thumbs up the video, share it, like it, follow for more. And guys, I appreciate you. Happy New Year's, and looking forward to growing, manifesting, and getting to the next level with all of you.